DHS, Department of Homeland Security, threatening AOC with arrest. You see, she keeps getting out over her skis, taking on Tom Homing, Kristi Noem, you name it. And she just doesn't have the law on her side in this particular case. We've been through it. The Constitution has this little thing called the Supremacy Clause. AOC, I know you didn't go to law school, you had a bad degree in economics because somehow you wound up a socialist, but we'll get to that in a moment. She doesn't have a leg to stand on legally. And so when she continues to try to threaten these political stunts, she is going to find herself in trouble. Just to take a step back, you know what this is about. It's what happened the other day, last Friday in Newark, New Jersey, where they decided to arrest the mayor of Newark, New Jersey, because he was trespassing along with other members of Congress. And now there's a whole investigation going on because those other members of Congress got out there, trespassed onto an ICE facility, the Delaney facility there, which is federal property, and they asked them to leave. They wouldn't leave. So what was that about? Well, Tricia McLaughlin, who is the DHS spokesperson, says this is nothing but a cheap political stunt, and they're going to pay the price.
This was a cheap political stunt by the Democrats and by these protesters. Who do they want to get out of this facility? Is it the MS-13 gang members? Again, this is a cheap political stunt for their 15 minutes of fame. We're not having it. They put law enforcement officers at risk. They put our staff in the facility at risk and put the detainees at risk. You saw that they didn't even let an ambulance through. This is not something that this administration is going to put up with. And that's part of the reason that this mayor was arrested. You can't just storm a detention facility and assault law enforcement officers with impunity.
No, you can't. Okay? Like, this is kind of basic stuff, all right? Like, I don't know why they think they can do that, but this Monica, forgive me, La Monica, not Monica, La Monica. You see, it has a certain ring to it. La Monica, who's a relatively new congressperson there in New Jersey, decided she was going to get up there and grandstand alongside Menendez, I believe a relation to Robert Menendez, who is now in jail for stealing and for fraud. Can't make it up. They got out there to do a little bit of grandstanding, and then things got kind of rough because we are now getting word that there was body slamming going on. Again, Tricia McLaughlin making this point on CNN, saying they're going to release all the tape. So La Monica, watch out. She's the lady in red as you look at this, guys.
We should let viewers know there will likely be more arrests coming. We actually have body camera footage of some of these members of Congress assaulting our ICE enforcement officers, including body slamming a female ICE officer. So we will be showing that to viewers very shortly.
You say a video of members of Congress body slamming ICE
That's correct.
officials?
That's correct, sir. It's disgusting.
Okay, and so if you have that video, are you suggesting that members of Congress will be arrested who were there yesterday?
This is an ongoing investigation, and that is definitely on the table.
Who has the video?
ICE does, and we will be releasing that very shortly.
Okay. Let's talk about...
So ICE has the video. We're waiting on the full release, but we've got some I want to share with you right now. Remember, La Monica is the woman in red. Take a look at her. She is the one that they are suggesting may have body slammed people. Menendez possibly too. A female ICE agent. Way to go, libs. I know it's a little bit hard to hear what's going on, but you can see there's quite a commotion. And La Monica is the woman in red, you see, who is going to be appearing. Well, do we see her? Does she make another cameo? There she is. You can see. By the way, for those of you that are listening on Spotify, thank you, thank you, thank you. You can't talk to a congresswoman like that. Thank you for listening on Spotify. If you're not on Spotify, go over there and check it out. The Trish Regan Show on Spotify, totally free. You see me, I'm in like a red dress. Blue background, red dress. Unbelievable. This is crazy. Again, to our audio listeners, I apologize for being quiet through this, but it's just really something to see. And it's important that you see it, actually. It's really, really important that you see it. I cannot stress enough that this is a moment. Leslie, one of our viewers here who's been with me from the very, very beginning. Guys, we're at like 700 and what is it, 60,000 now? I mean, like it's phenomenal. We're growing every single day. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. You're spreading the word. You're telling everybody. You're subscribing. You're liking. You're sharing. You're commenting. All of this is helping. But, you know, we got a few people who've been here from the get-go. And Leslie's one of them. And Leslie was saying that in her estimation, this is a kind of insurrection. And I think we're going to continue to hear more. I mean, I don't think this is going away, in part because of some of the things that AOC is saying and some of the allegations she's making and the threats she's making, and then the threats that we hear back. And I'm going to get to that in a second again. But just remember what we're looking at. Last Friday, you had members of Congress. Okay, these are not like J6ers, you know, people, everyday citizens who decided to descend upon Capitol Hill. These are members of Congress, okay? So, like, I'm sorry, but you'd think that they would maybe be held to a little bit higher standard. And if they say, hey, you're trespassing, get out of here, you can't do this, that they might back off. But that's not actually what happened. So it got to the point, as Alina Habba pointed out last Friday, that they had to make that arrest of the Newark mayor. And wow, boy, did that set them off. Listen to the sort of craziness that we heard coming out of them.
We've heard a lot of Democrats make the argument that they're just conducting oversight, congressional oversight. Well, we know that's baloney, because had they asked us, had they requested a tour, David, we would have happily facilitated that for them. As well, there are public guidelines that we have offered, including that they need to notify us 24 hours in advance if they would like a tour of a facility. So again, this is all political gamesmanship, and we're not playing with the safety of our law enforcement officers.
No, nor should you. I mean, it makes total sense. I mean, it's outrageous. They could have called, requested access to this facility and gone and done a tour. Did they do that? No. And you know why they didn't do that? Because they wanted to actually get the attention. They're hungry for this kind of attention, and they want to set up this juxtaposition between state and federal law enforcement. But as I've said, and I'm going to say it again, you know what, guys, you're going to lose that all day long. You're just going to lose it and lose it and lose it and lose it, because when it comes to things like immigration, guess what? The federal government has all the power in the world. And by the way, there is this little thing called the Supremacy Clause, which specifically deals and actually dealt with a case out in Arizona, I believe in 2012, where this came up. And the Supremacy Clause specifically states that when it comes to immigration issues, that, you know, the states can do all the sanctuary stuff they want, but the federal government has the ultimate jurisdiction. LaMonica got out there and she was ranting and raving, and she was so upset because, and we showed you the tape yesterday, I guess we don't need to do it again, but it was kind of funny because the horn, the train kept like going, like every single time she tried to say something, kind of fitting in more ways than one. And so now she's being looked at for a potential arrest alongside Menendez and alongside none other than Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez herself, who, by the way, has aspirations, believe it or not, to run for president. You know, big puff piece on her in the Wall Street Journal the other day. Don't get me started on the Wall Street Journal. I'm telling you, that paper's getting really weird. Donald Trump said the same thing just the other day. Tom Homan, meanwhile, he just did a total takedown of AOC. A total takedown. It was brilliant. It was great. He's the salt of the earth. He's a good guy. I've known him for a lot of years. He is so passionate about what he does. He's so committed. And when you get a little, you know, I won't say it. When you get a little AOC that comes along the way saying things like this, it's like a gnat. He has to just, you know, squash her. And he did. Here's AOC threatening Tom.
If anyone's breaking the law in this situation, it's not members of Congress, it's the Department of Homeland Security. It's people like Tom Homan and Secretary Kristi Noem. You lay a finger on them, we are going to have a problem.
I think AOC is just jealous because you see Kristi Noem, aka Ice Barbie, is a hell of a lot prettier. Don't you agree? I mean, age and everything aside, we're just talking raw looks. And AOC's kind of losing them at that. I digress. This is catty. This doesn't help my argument. I get it. But she really doesn't like Kristi Noem. And she really doesn't like Tom Homan. You see, the two of them have a history, and I'm going to get to that. But at first, I want to show you what Tom Homan had to say back to one Ms. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. He went on CNN. He just put it right out there, and man, he leveled her.
First of all, you can't intimidate me. Come on, give me a break. You know, I was enforcing him. I was wearing a green uniform, Border Patrol agent, for 5 years before she was even born. I had more than 3 decades enforcing immigration law before she became a member of Congress. I worked for 6 presidents. I've seen policies. I've seen hundreds of policies. Some worked, some didn't. But you can't deny the success of the Trump administration when it comes to border security. Again, the most secure border in the history of this nation. And I said from day one, and she knows this, you can not support ICE. Shame on you. You can support sanctuary cities. Shame on you. But you can't cross the line. You can't knowingly impede ICE law enforcement officers. That is a felony. You can't harbor and conceal, knowingly harbor and conceal an illegal alien from ICE. That is a felony. And you certainly can't commit criminal trespass. You know, and as far as New York, her district, this administration has done more to protect her district than she has. The number of criminal aliens we took off the streets of New York made her community much safer. She ought to be thanking the members of this administration, the men and women of ICE who protect this country and make her community safer. So, you know, it's politics over public safety. It's just ridiculous. She ought to love her community more than she hates Trump, because we're doing a lot to protect her community.
It's well said, right? She ought to love her community more than she hates Trump, but she just hates Trump. It's TDS on steroids. Donald Trump talking about this. I'll play it later in the show. Recently, they're on the plane en route to Saudi Arabia. How, you know, the Democrats are just really kind of consumed, and it's bizarre. Like, we should be concerned for their health, if you would. They can't see the forest for the trees, but she never has been able to. You see, Homan's worked in 6 different administrations. This has been his passion his whole life, and it used to be in the old days, both sides agreed. You know, you kind of needed borders. After all, in the words of Dianne Feinstein, the late Dianne Feinstein from California, we are, quote, not going to become the welfare system for Mexico. I mean, that was her 20 years ago, but even 10 years ago, they were talking a normal game. You go back to Barack Obama, and he was deporting people more than we had ever seen under the Bush administration. In fact, it was one of his criticisms of the Bush administration that they allowed the border to be too porous. But all of a sudden, because it's Donald Trump's issue, they're going the other way. Here's AOC and Tom Homan. This is fantastic, and it tells you everything you need to know about both of these people. This is from 2019. It was a brilliant commentary by Tom. He put the woman once again in her place. I want you to see.
For this memo.
You're not the author, but you signed the memo.
Yes, a zero tolerance memo.
So you provided the official recommendation to Secretary Nielsen on for the United States to pursue family separation.
I gave Secretary Nielsen numerous recommendations on how to secure the border and save lives.
But it says here that you gave her numerous options, but the recommendation was option 3, family separation.
What I'm saying, this is not the only paper where we've given the Secretary numerous options to secure the border and save lives.
And so the recommendation, of the many that you recommended family separation.
I recommended zero tolerance.
Which includes family separation.
The same as is with every U.S. citizen parent gets arrested when they're with a child.
Zero tolerance was interpreted as the policy that separated children from their
If I get arrested for DUI and I have a young child in the car, I'm going to be separated. When I was a police officer in New York and I arrested a father for domestic violence, I separated that father
Mr.
from his
Holman,
family.
with all due respect, legal asylees are not charged with any crime.
When you're into the country illegally, it's violation 8 United States Code 1325.
Seeking asylum is legal.
If you want to seek asylum, you go through the port of entry, do it the legal way. The Attorney General of the United States has made that clear.
Okay.
Kind of amazing, right? I mean, she just doesn't understand this. This is Attorney General after Attorney General, by the way. This is up until the Biden years, this was totally normal. Like, this is not okay, what they got going on. So Tom Homan's putting her in her place, but he's very good at that. Here's another sort of oldie but a goodie. Also from 2019, Tom Homan versus Representative Jayapal, who also doesn't quite seem to get it.
Look, You want to know why there's 50,000 people in detention? You want to know why we have 1 million illegal entries in the United States? You want to know why we have these issues? Because you have failed to secure the border. You have failed to work with this president to close the 3 loopholes we've asked for 2 years to close. So if you want to know why this issue exists, you need to look in the mirror. You have failed American people for not securing the border and closing loopholes.
Mr. Homan, please respect the chair and the authority of the chair. The time of the gentleman has expired.
I've asked you politely to let me go beyond my time, and you let other people go beyond their time, but not to Tom Homan. He don't get me go beyond his time.
Mr. Homan, we have approved an agreement between the Republicans and the Democrats with the ranking member. We increased the time of one member of Congress who was interrupted by a protest. That is done with the approval of the ranking member. Please respect the chair's authority.
I respect the chair's authority, but the chair...
Mr. Homan!
You work for me. I'm a taxpayer. I'm a taxpayer. You work for me.
The witness will suspend.
Gosh, I mean, he's right. Right? So I'm just pointing out, like, you don't mess around with this guy. Yet AOC is choosing, as we said, to mess around with him, getting a little crazy with some new threats. Here we go.
If anyone's breaking the law in this situation, it's not members of Congress, it's the Department of Homeland Security. It's people like Tom Homan and Secretary Kristi Noem. You lay a finger on them, we are going to have a problem.
Well, you may have a problem. You may have a problem because, again, according to DHS, they've got some video, they've got an investigation going on. LaMonica and Menendez may be in a whole bunch of trouble, along with the Newark mayor. He has been released, by the way, from custody, but this is an ongoing investigation, as Tricia McLaughlin has explained, as Kristi Noem has explained. So when it comes to AOC, if she decides to engage in any kind of similar behavior, guess what? Handcuffs for her.
If AOC goes down there and pulls the same kind of stunt that we've seen on Friday and today, are you going to arrest her as well?
If she trespasses and if she assaults law enforcement officers, as we saw earlier, I think that that's certainly on the table.
Boom! It's on the table. Of course it's on the table. Of course it's on the table because you just can't do this stuff. You can't. I mean, LaMonica, you can't go out and body slam Menendez. You can't body slam an ICE agent if that is in fact what happened. Again, we're waiting on more tape to come out, but you saw what I showed you. And this woman, here's the train video. Okay, we got to play it. We got to play it, right?
How this administration is trying to restrict Congress from doing their bare duties and the responsibilities that the people have elected us to do. What we just witnessed was just disgusting. I am very upset. I am very angry, and I am very hurt that they could be able to do something like that to us. These are people who are supposed to be officers, who are supposed to protect us, and they have done none of that. If they can treat 3 members of Congress like that, just imagine how they can treat people on the street each and every day, both undocumented and people who are citizens here in this country. It makes absolutely no sense to arrest.
Okay. You get the picture. She goes on and on and on. The train keeps coming in. Then Menendez comes up, and the train keeps coming in on his commentary as well. Look, Tricia McLaughlin said it well. She said this was a political stunt. They could have requested access to this facility if they wanted to see it. They didn't do that because they wanted this opportunity. They wanted to actually have this altercation with law enforcement in order to bring to a head effectively this state versus federal government. And don't kid yourself. AOC wants the exact same thing. This is what they are itching for. They are itching for a fight. They want this breakdown to happen. This is the quote unquote civil war that we've been talking about. But you know what? They're not going to win. They're just not going to win this time. You know what the American people voted for. Look, he won the Electoral College and he won the popular vote. And by the way, the stock market's up. How do you like that?
This was a cheap political stunt by the Democrats and by these protesters. Who do they want to get out of this facility? Is it the MS-13 gang members? Again, this is a cheap political stunt for their 15 minutes of fame. We're not having it. They put law enforcement officers at risk. They put our staff in the facility at risk and put the detainees at risk. You saw that they didn't even let an ambulance through. This is not something that this administration is going to put up with. And that's part of the reason that this mayor was arrested. You can't just storm a detention facility and assault law enforcement officers with impunity.
No, you can't. I mean, when did you think you actually could? So Andy McCarthy, he's a renowned legal scholar, and not necessarily, I'm going to play this soundbite because he's not necessarily a big fan of Donald Trump, but he understands the law, and I think that's an important sort of distinction to make. It's not like he's like totally pro-MAGA, super duper Trump. No, but he is on the side of the Constitution. Thank you very much. And so am I, and so are you, and so is the rest of America. Let's listen to Andy.
So they broke out in song on Monday. A few days prior to that, though, the video was a lot rougher. Another showdown outside that ICE detention center in New Jersey. Protesters, including Democratic lawmakers, members of the clergy there, protest the facility now a couple days in the making. Andy McCarthy is with us to tell us who's right, who's wrong on all this and where it goes from here. Andy, good morning to you, and thank you for your
morning,
time.
Bill.
Yeah, AOC says Tom Homan, Secretary Noem, you're the problem here. Here we go. Watch.
If anyone's breaking the law in this situation, it's not members of Congress, it's the Department of Homeland Security. It's people like Tom Homan and Secretary Kristi Noem. You lay a finger on them, we are going to have a problem.
Okay, so legally, who's in the right here? Do the lawmakers have the authority to go into this facility, or do they not?
No, they absolutely don't have the authority to go in without the approval of the executive branch. The enforcement of the federal immigration laws is a federal responsibility. Congress has oversight of it, but members of Congress who are not acting as Congress, they're acting as individuals, they don't have any more right to obstruct the operations and certainly to create situations that endanger and in some cases reportedly have resulted in assaults on federal officials. They don't have any power to do that.
You see? Obviously. Again, do I need to go back to 101? I've been reading the Constitution now almost daily here on the show, so maybe I'll spare you that. But listen, you got the Supremacy Clause, you got the Commerce Clause. This has all been challenged before, and guess what? You know who is in the right on this? Once again, the federal government. Hey, I mean, remember what happened in Texas, for goodness sakes? Gosh, in Texas, when you couldn't actually put the border wall, they were taking it down. Biden's team was taking the darn border wall down, and poor Greg Abbott down there. Governor Abbott's like, excuse me? Right? Like, it costs all this money to take the border wall down. He couldn't do anything. He couldn't do anything because, dun-dun-dun, the federal government has the power over things like the border, period. End of story. This is not up for debate. I mean, I was thinking Texas might want to look at a secession or something. I mean, heck, who the you know what needs this, right? You can understand why they might be thinking that. They didn't, of course. But in other words, it's ridiculous. When you have a federal government that won't protect you and you're right there on the border, you don't really want that federal government. What the heck are your taxpayer dollars doing? Anyway, reminder, subscribe, share, like. I mean, we're just flying here on the show, and it's awesome.